In a sleek Manhattan tower shaped like a tube of lipstick, an entire floor was kept locked. The elevators of the 17th floor opened for almost no one. The employees inside used outdated computers and were told never to discuss their work. Upstairs, on the 19th floor, one of Wall Street's most respected firms hummed with legitimate trading. Downstairs, behind that locked door, sat the largest financial crime in human history. $65 billion that did not exist. This is the story of Bernie Madoff's 17th floor. And of the 2 decades the whole world refused to look inside. To understand how he got away with it, you have to understand who he was. Bernie Madoff was not a shadowy outsider. He was the establishment. He founded his firm in 1960 with money saved from lifeguarding and installing sprinklers. He helped build the modern electronic stock market. He chaired NASDAQ itself. Regulators asked his advice on how markets should work. When the fox helps design the henhouse, nobody watches the fox. And to a certain kind of wealthy investor, Madoff offered something intoxicating. Not spectacular returns, reliable ones. Roughly 1% a month, year after year, in good markets and bad, steady as a heartbeat. He claimed the returns came from a sophisticated options strategy. In reality, the strategy was arithmetic. New investors' money paid old investors' withdrawals. It was a Ponzi scheme, the oldest trick in finance, wearing a tailored suit. But it was the exclusivity that made it brilliant. Madoff turned people away. You could not simply invest with Bernie. You had to be introduced, vouched for, invited. Country clubs whispered his name. Charities entrusted him with their endowments. Being allowed in felt like membership in a secret aristocracy of safe money. Therefore, the money flooded in, through wealthy families, through charities, and through enormous feeder funds that gathered billions from ordinary investors across Europe and beyond, many of whom never knew their savings had been handed to Madoff at all. Down on the 17th floor, a small crew ran the machine. They generated fake account statements showing trades that never happened, profits conjured from nothing, billions of dollars in transactions printed on paper, backed by air. When regulators asked questions, the 17th floor produced whatever paperwork made the questions go away. And here is the part that should haunt every investor. One man saw it. In 1999, a Boston quantitative analyst named Harry Markopoulos was asked by his firm to reverse engineer Madoff's returns. It took him 5 minutes to suspect fraud and 4 hours to be nearly certain. The returns were mathematically impossible. The options market Madoff claimed to trade in was not even big enough to handle his supposed positions. Markopoulos did not stay quiet. He went to the regulators in 2000. They did nothing. He went again in 2001. Nothing. In 2005, he sent them a memo bluntly titled, "The world's largest hedge fund is a fraud," laying out 29 red flags. The agency conducted reviews. It interviewed Madoff. It found nothing worth stopping. The man who chaired NASDAQ was simply too respectable to be a thief. The scheme did not die from investigation. It died from mathematics. In the autumn of 2008, the global financial crisis sent terrified investors running for cash everywhere. Madoff's clients asked for their money back, $7 billion of it. And a Ponzi scheme has one fatal weakness. It can survive suspicion forever, but it cannot survive withdrawals. By early December 2008, Madoff had less than $300 million left against $7 billion in redemption requests. The heartbeat was stopping. On December 10th, Bernie Madoff called his 2 sons into his apartment. Mark and Andrew had spent their careers on the legitimate trading floor upstairs, and by every account, they knew nothing. Their father told them the asset management business was, in his words, one big lie. The next morning, their lawyers called the FBI. When agents arrived at his door, Madoff simply said, "There is no innocent explanation." The number on the statements was staggering. $65 billion across nearly 5,000 accounts. Retirees lost everything. Charities closed their doors. A foundation built by a Holocaust survivor lost tens of millions. Some victims had entrusted Madoff with every dollar they had because he was the safest name on Wall Street. Madoff pled guilty to 11 felonies and was sentenced to 150 years in federal prison. The judge called the fraud extraordinarily evil. But the story's cruelest chapters came after. Exactly 2 years to the day after his father's arrest, Mark Madoff took his own life in his Manhattan apartment. Andrew died of cancer a few years later, saying his father had killed him slowly. Bernie Madoff died in prison in April 2021 at the age of 82, estranged from nearly everyone who had ever loved him. And yet, buried in the wreckage, there is one astonishing number. A court-appointed trustee spent years clawing back money from those who had profited, tracing every fake dollar to its source. Of the roughly $19 billion in real principal that investors put in, more than $14 billion has been recovered, one of the greatest asset recoveries in history. The fake profits, of course, never existed at all. The locked floor is gone now. The firm is dissolved, the lipstick tower relet to new tenants. But the mechanism Madoff perfected, respectability as camouflage, exclusivity as bait, steady returns as sedative, did not die with him. Somewhere right now there is a fund that never seems to lose. There is a manager too distinguished to question. There is a door that stays politely closed. The world's largest fraud lasted 20 years, not because it was hidden well, but because no one wanted it to be true. Follow where money dies for the fortunes history tried to bury.